Hey, witches. I want to talk for just a little bit about Salem, the witch trials, and ancestors and genealogy. I had a really weird thing happen, and I want to find out if any of you have experienced this kind of thing as well, if you have ancestors that were persecuted during the trials. So I recently started researching my dad's side of the family and found out that I had several ancestors who were persecuted during the trials. I joined a couple of Facebook groups to see to learn more about, were they actually, my ancestors, were they actually practicing witchcraft? Did they just piss somebody off? What the circumstances were surrounding that, find out a little bit about them. One of the groups that I joined, I very quickly found out that a lot of the members, not all of them, but a lot of the members were just really there for and really bent on clearing their family member of 10 generations back, of clearing that family member's name, their family in general, of any connection to any sort of witchcraft. They were making statements like, we're 100% positive that we can unequivocally say that none of the people accused practiced any sort of witchcraft. I had questions, so I started asking, and I really got shot back at, which was really shocking to me. How do we know? How do we know? The definition of witchcraft in the 17th century was that you had made a deal with the devil to oppose Christianity, and that is not what we see today as well. People do still see that. Or think that is true, but most of us practicing witchcraft, our goal as Twisted Hazel Coven is to educate people on, and normalizing witchcraft as it is. I try to explain to them that, the true definition of witchcraft is, a reverence for and honoring of nature, working with nature spirits and the earth herself and her energies and healing powers, with your own energies and healing powers, working with plants that have inherent abilities to heal. Those kinds of things, living your life by the tides and by the moon phases, working with animal spirits, and things like that. And the true definitions of witchcraft, not the 17th century definition of witchcraft. I got shot back at with, none of them were accused of herbalism or folk medicine. Of course not. Of course, they're not going to get accused of folk medicine or herbalism. People needed plant medicines then, because we had no antibiotics then. There were, we were not so far removed in the 17th century from pagan ways, from earth-based spirituality. So there were still people who did practice what is today known as witchcraft, not the 17th century definition of witchcraft. But what better way to eradicate, a group of people from your community than to accuse them of sorcery or Satanism or opposing Christianity, of inflicting harm, pain, mental anguish on someone by sorcery. So it was a big debate back and forth, and my goal was to kind of educate a little bit and to possibly stay within the group to learn more. But so, and I found it odd, because I found, like, I was thinking, you're not doing your ancestors any good. You're actually persecuting them over again if they were indeed practicing the true form of witchcraft. You're kind of just persecuting them all over again. And of course, nobody is going to be accused of herbalism or, living by the land or anything like that back then. Then they're not going to cop to that either at that point, after they've already been accused of witchcraft, with the possibility of being thrown in a 17th century jail, being tortured, burned at the stake, drowned, or stoned to death in public. No, they're not going to say anything other than what you want them to say. But some of these people were just really bent on, no, there was none of them practiced any sort of witchcraft. I find that really hard to believe, because those things were needed back then, but they weren't accepted. So I just wanted to know if any of you, this just baffles me. It really totally baffles me. I joined several groups, and a couple of the other ones so far, I have not had any of that. I've had a mix of people, people who do believe that there was some sort of, witchcraft, not sorcery, and not, any kind of evil and inflicting ill will on someone else, but true witchcraft as we people who know it see it today. So I wanted to know if any of you have, if you have ancestors that were persecuted in the trials. Have you ran into any of this in your research? Have you, what do you think? Do you think that some of them were? Because I tend to think that some of them were actually doing that and some of them were actually doing nothing, and they just got caught up in the hysteria and pissed somebody off and were persecuted. So I'm curious. I'm just really curious. And again, this is researching the Salem witch trials themselves. As far as my genealogy is a new one to me. Not genealogy, but the Salem witch trials with genealogy is yes. So I just wanted to know if what are your opinions and what do you think? And have you experienced this in any ancestor groups for the witch trials? So, witches, chime in. Let me know.